Welcome into the OBR streaming network. This is your pregame show, week 2. Cleveland Browns in Jacksonville, Duval County. Hope you are ready. Browns got to bounce back today. It's a monster game, and we're going to talk all about it. But first, I want to talk to my esteemed panel with me today. Next to me, the one and only Jacob Roach. What's going on, Jacob? How you doing, brother?
Doing pretty good, Brad. Optimistic. I know that you're optimistic as well, so I'm excited.
Yeah, I am. I am optimistic today, and the legendary Casey Kinnaman. Casey, what is going on, big dog?
The O word, the same thing you boys just said. I woke up more optimistic than I thought I would be. To be honest with you, I definitely see some paths to victory, and got to take care. You got to take care of some stuff, but it's imperative, man. You got to leave Northern Florida 1-1.
Is it Northern Florida?
Jacksonville, yeah.
I was gonna say I have no idea. Don't ask me.
Yeah, I'm not real good with the math of Florida, Orlando. Yeah, I don't know where these places are. I just know they are in Florida. So, but Jacksonville, Northern Florida. Thank you, Casey. All right, let's take a look right off the bat. First of all, thank you for tuning in today to the OBR pregame show. Make sure you take a second to hit like and subscribe. It only takes you a second. It's completely free and helps us out a ton. Let's go ahead and look at the inactives, gentlemen. Here we are. Once again, a couple names jump off the page there. Jack Conklin, Jed Wills, inactive. DTR, pretty expected. Khalif Lassie, no surprise there, really. Well, I guess, I don't know. We can talk about it. Javion Cohen, Jamari Thrash, and David Njoku. So, with these guys being, what's it say next to Thrash? Nothing, right? So, I wonder why he's inactive. Any guesses there, Prochet?
Yeah, rotating punt returners. You know, you cut Darden last week. Prochet is going to get the call up. He's signed to the active for now, which I think that's just going to be a revolving door with that. I think that's the reason they stockpiled that many guys on the practice squads to call them up for a week or two at a time. I would have thought Darden would have stayed up a little longer. To be honest with you, I thought he did really well last week.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's Jamar Thrash he's a rookie. He wasn't going to see much run anyway, so he's just getting subbed out for guys who are going to make more of a difference on special teams.
I do think it's interesting that you do in this game opt for David Bell instead of Jamari Thrash.
Yeah.
Just in that situation, that between those two, that's the one you go with. I can understand why, but in a sense that I think Watson needs his wide receivers to create after the catch. That's something we said last week. It's something we've said this week. And Jamari Thrash can do a little bit more of that than David Bell. But at the same time, if you're looking for a possession wide receiver with very sure hands, that's David Bell. But in the end, I think that's a little interesting, but maybe nothing too totally unexpected.
I think Jamari Thrash speaks more to what the ceiling of this offense could be, but I think they're just trying to establish the basement.
Yeah,
this is why you go Bell, because I don't think this thing is anywhere near hitting its ceiling right now. So they're just trying to establish a baseline.
Yeah, I also think that David Bell is one of those guys you lean on with no tight end, really, right? So no Njoku, he is one. Him and Tillman are the guys they've used in the past as your quasi, chip and then get out whatever type guys. So I think that may have something to do with it too, potentially. No Njoku there. All right, let's and what about, no Wills, no Conklin still. I don't think we expected it. You're going to get Hudson again starting at left. You're going to get DeWand at right. How are we feeling today about that situation?
I mean, I'm never going to feel good about it. It's just the litany of pass rushers you're facing in the beginning of this season. I mean, it doesn't – I know everybody's focused on Micah last week because Micah is the highest profile talent you'll face as an edge rusher, but it doesn't get easier with Trevon Walker and Josh Hines Allen and Eric Armstead. This is a very formidable pass rush you're facing in Jacksonville. But it's going to be all hands on deck. You just touched on it. No David Njoku. You're going to be chipping a lot. You're going to be trying to move formations around, try to mitigate how effective. And you can't let those guys wreck the game. And they can wreck a game. Those Trevon Walker and Josh Hines-Allen combined for 27 sacks last year. I mean, that is a highly productive unit. So, yeah, I'm not going to feel great about it, but Hudson played better than expected for me last week. Hopefully he can keep that up, and just you do the best you can with what you got.
And at least he could run block. I think Hudson still is a pretty above average run blocker. I think he graded out really, I can't remember last week, but graded out really well as a run blocker, despite the 6 allowed pressures that he had on the other side.
76.
76. Okay. Yeah. So I think that goes a long way, establishing the run game, doing some of that screen game to like Jerome Ford and even wide receiver screens to maybe Jerry Jeudy or something like that. They're going to, again, have to try to find easy answers to take pressure off of Hudson, but you at least feel decent that if Batonio was a really good run blocker last week too. So if they can kind of establish something on that side and try to take some of the pressure off and use some of that quick game to slow that rush down, I think they can manage, but yeah, no, I don't. I don't love it.
Go to a question here from the chat. Did you watch the Kurt Warner breakdown on Watson? I did. Did you guys watch it?
I did not. I opted not to. I opted for positivity that day.
Opted not to.
That's what I was going to say. I
saw it and turned away.
It was on there. I didn't have room in my day for negativity when I saw it.
Yeah, okay. I was already down bad enough. I just didn't. But I mean, I saw some clips of it, and it just reinforced everything that we thought.
Yeah. So, I mean, the thing was, I kind of felt the same way. It's like, all right, I've already watched this, twice now, and now I'm gonna watch it and somebody else break it down. Although he is a Hall of Fame quarterback. Mm-hmm. It was interesting. Yes, I did watch it, Jason. If you have specific questions about it, the stuff, the most alarming stuff about it, and he's right, he wasn't that negative. It was more about like, why is he looking at the answer and not throwing the ball? Like it looks like he's looking at the play, the receiver. Mm-hmm. He has the options, the read is there, and the ball doesn't come out. And I would agree with that. And it sounds so familiar once again to 2021 Baker Mayfield, where he was staring down wide open receivers, just afraid to let the ball go.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but we do have breaking news. After a hamstring injury in pregame warmups, tight end Evan Ingram is out for the Jacksonville.
Wow. Okay. That's huge.
Yeah,
okay.
That's massive.
Massive.
That
okay.
is massive.
I am so glad I didn't put him in my parlay like I almost did.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, Evan Ingram out. Let's take a look at their depth chart real quickly.
It's Luke Farrell and Brenton Strange. That's who's behind him.
Brenton Strange, Farrell. Well, I don't even need to look at it. Casey's already got it. Yeah. So, what do you know about those guys, Case? Nothing like Evan Ingram as far as pass catching threat.
Yeah, I mean, Evan Ingram's also not a tight end. That man is a power slot. He doesn't put his hand in the dirt. He's not affecting the run game in any way. But he's a chain mover. He caught 114 balls last year for under 1,000 yards, should be noted. But he's a chain mover. Luke Farrell's more of a complete tight end. Brenton Strange, who I was really high on coming out of Penn State, is a blocker. They're going to use him. They will use him to affect the run game. And anytime they needed to put tight ends to block, that's who they would bring in. It's Brenton Strange and Luke Farrell. So I'll say this, and Nathan Zagura touched on it in the pregame, and I was listening. Their field is in horrendous condition today.
Is it
really?
They've been getting. It's a natural turf field, but they've been seeing rain. They're under a floodplain advisory on the coastal there. And he said it's just in shambles. Now, it's not raining currently, but the damage has kind of already been done. So I wonder if that contributed to the hamstring, and I wonder how much that contributes to the style of play we're going to see today. I would. Luke Farrell is definitely their more advanced receiving tight end that's on the roster today, and Brenton Strange is going to be a blocking guy.
You're gonna see like 20 cleat changes, I bet
Mhm.
today. Guys changing their cleats a lot, adjusting to the field once they get out there. Boy, that's the last thing the Browns need is more injuries caused by slipping.
Yeah.
So, let me ask you guys this question then. Delpit is kind of the tight end eraser on this team. With no Evan Ingram, if you're Jim Schwartz, how are you changing your game plan somewhat? How does that change as we go into? I mean, it's game day.
Yeah.
If you had him assigned to take away Ingram, now he's no longer there. How do you adjust?
Well, it was interesting because during Jim's press conference this week, he mentioned the fact that Delpit went down during that game and Evan Ingram went off. He had 11 catches for 95 and 2 touchdowns. But he mentioned that not having Delpit was a big detriment. So that was going to be part of the plan. But we also don't know what the usage of Delpit was going to be without Thornhill. With Thornhill being out, how much does that really change how often you're able to deploy Delpit in the box to be that tight end eraser? But yeah, I don't think you need Delpit as a tight end eraser on Luke Farrell. Now you can use him in that role, but I don't think his talents might be better served elsewhere because you have other players that can. I mean, not to say that Luke Farrell's a bad tight end. He's not the threat that Evan Ingram is. That's not even close. And I don't even know if they can use him in that way. So you might not see the 4 wide today. You might not see the double slots with him and Christian Kirk. So this could change a great deal for both sides.
Real quick, gonna go to you, Jacob. Same question. That's what I was thinking about this. It's going to change the way they play offense, obviously. So how do you adjust defensively, Jacob?
The thing that we've talked about last week specifically compared to this trend around the NFL is a lot of this too high safety stuff has been going on around the NFL. The Browns haven't really gone into that as much. But I think you may see them do a little bit more of that here because you can afford to drop Delpit back a little bit in some of those formations, kind of like Casey said. And it just depends on how the other corners are playing, how they're playing in the slot and exactly what Jacksonville tries to do to adjust it. But I just think it gives you more freedom. I don't have to, if Evan Ingram's on the field, I don't have to worry about saying, all right, Delpit, you got to go follow that. You got to go do that. Now you can put him in other situations. You can blitz him. I know he's a pretty effective pass rusher on blitzing situations. Maybe you put him back and play some of that too high safety, or maybe you feel good putting McLeod and maybe Hickman back there because Delpit can kind of play the middle of the field, kind of, watch for Trevor Lawrence and his mobility, some things like that. Just some random thoughts because I hadn't really thought about it going into this situation. But I think it just gives you more freedom if you're Jim Schwartz, and that's never a bad thing.
I think that it calls into question how much can you really change from you're finding out right now. You're not really going to revise everything.
True.
And have, I mean, we've been waiting on the change up, but we know what Jim's fastball is. Delpit, you could also see him off. The run game is going to be crucial in bad weather, so Delpit is that overhang box defender. He's excellent strong side. So yeah, man, it's I don't know how much exactly you can change in half hour though.
Also, along with that, how much does the field change your game plan or play calling? Are you re-scripting a little bit your first 15 plays, whatever? All of those things kind of coming into play, as Bill mentions the field as well here. 2 straight weeks of rain. All right, so I did want to circle back to kind of, you guys were talking about the run blocking earlier before the breaking news. Listen, they had good run block grades, but they didn't run the damn ball. So, I mean, so what do we, we talked about this week, Casey. I'd like to see some of Deontay Foreman today. And I would, also with Jerome Ford. But, when you're having a tough time running the ball or finding space, Foreman would probably be the option there. As he can kind of wiggle in those creases and fall forward for some yardage to get you ahead of the sticks. The question is, do you expect to see a concerted effort to run the football after only running it with your running back 4 times in week 1?
Absolutely have to. You've seen what was happening throwing the ball on first downs. you got to get yourself in positive situations. You're in 50-50 to the defense. And for me, it's first down efficiency in the run game. That's what it was for me last week. And but also penalties played a large part in you having 1st and 15s. And you have to stay out of that situation. You got to get to 3rd and manageable by any means necessary. And this offensive line did run block well last week. Lean on your strengths, man, and bring up your weaknesses as you go. But right now, especially with a bad field, you know what I mean? Especially someone like Foreman, man, 1 foot and get up there in the crease and just give me the 2nd and 6. And then that's a whole different world of possibilities than 2nd and 11 coming off 1st and 15. So that's my main issue on the offense is put your quarterback in the best situation as possible. We cannot find ourselves in obvious passing situations, especially against this pass rush.
I really like their pass rush. I'm not as concerned about their run defense. It's not a joke. Like, it's not laughable because they have talented pieces out there. But I think you can run on them if you establish it and you stick with it. Like, if you go to the power back of Dante. I don't think you'll ever be able to explain to me why he didn't carry the ball last year. Like, at no point will I ever accept whatever your excuse is unless he was hurt. Which at that point you call somebody else up and you make him inactive or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. There's opportunities there. In Casey, you're 100% right. I kept saying this last week. They were behind the chains constantly. And it's like, if you can't pick up 4 or 5 yards on a quick slant on 1st down or some kind of mid-yardage throw, then don't throw it 100 times on 1st down. Like, try to you got to stay ahead of the chains. They averaged 3rd and 7 or longer last week. I know at one point in the 4th quarter, it was 3rd and the average was 6.9 to go on 3rd down. You can't do that. You can't do that with where this offense is right now. And you can't put your defense in that kind of a tough spot. So it's old school Cleveland Browns establish the run, man. You've got to make a conceited effort to do that.
They're also without nose tackle Mason Smith today.
Oh, really? Interesting.
He was inactive for them.
There you go.
He was replaced by Roy. I guess he was their backup, huh?
Yeah, but he's the guy on rundowns. They're bringing he's a massive athlete.
Devon Hamilton and Roy Harris Robinson.
Yep. And then Eric Armstead kicks down and plays a ton of defensive tackle as well.
He'll be
everywhere today. You get used to seeing him everywhere.
Yeah.
That's the guy you need to know where he is at all times, as well as their edge rushers as well. So I mean, this offensive line has its hands full again. You talked about staying ahead of the sticks and how indicative and how important that is, and how indicative that is of what happened last week. And if you think about, 12 offensive penalties, 3 formation penalties, 2, false starts or whatever. I can't even remember them all. I wrote them up, but they're absurd, right?
Yeah.
And I don't even know how that can't number one adjustment that had to be made this week for me is you've got to play a cleaner game, right?
Yeah, I mean that's not Kevin Stefanski football. I know that was egregious. You know what I mean? And when your offense isn't firing on all cylinders, you can't overcome those things. So that's priorities 1, 2, and 3, man. You can't start from a deficit.
Yeah, I don't know how you get to the season and just don't know how to line up. Like, I get it because they haven't played. This group hasn't played together, and the injuries have a big part to do with that. But it's like, it's the stupid penalties. It's the one where it's like, that's basic. You know where you're supposed to be. Be where you're supposed to be, and don't have these pre-snap procedural penalties that just. When they had one last week, it doomed the drive. It would doom the drive. It would. Yeah. There was that penalty. We're gonna punt, or we're gonna kick a field goal, or whatever. But you just can't keep doing that.
So we already talked about them wanting to run the ball more before we flip sides of the ball and establish the run, probably with this field too. I don't know how much that's going to affect pass run.
Mhm.
Only they really going to know what they're going to want to do with that, right? But the game plan last week, we talked about it, Casey, and I understood that coming out a little conservative, trying to get Watson going. But for me, it continued to be conservative. Like you got to try to score points at some point here or move the ball down the field. Um, but also there's obviously a lack of what appeared to me in watching it back is a lack of trust in what, like, I feel like the play calling was affected by their lack of trust for what he was going to do with the ball. So, go ahead, Jacob. You can say
We've
something.
got something else now
Okay.
coming out. The Browns quietly removed a clause from Deshaun Watson's contract this offseason that would protect him in the event of a future suspension. Per the report, this is from Jay Glazer. Per the report, if Watson is suspended again, they could reclaim his guaranteed money.
Yeah. So reclaim all of it.
Said reclaim his guaranteed money. That's what the report says.
Wow.
Which wouldn't that mean not only okay, so you're voiding it and potentially taking it off the cap. Sorry, I didn't mean to. That popped up real quick.
No, that's massive news. I was worried about injury. Something that would affect me today, but yeah, no, that's the players' union. How can we just effectively remove a clause of a guarantee? I need to know
the
weird
details. One from Glazer. Because here's the narrative already was, if this is found outside of his what he or which they've deemed basically already announced this week that this is considered a separate incident.
Mm-hmm.
And if it wasn't disclosed and the investigation comes through and he is suspended, the Browns would have the opportunity, my understanding, to void the remainder of his contract. I don't know how you could go back and take the money back, but is that how you're reading that, Jacob?
Well, yeah, the reclaim part of it to me makes me think of stuff they've already given him,
like signing bonuses.
Yeah, and I know Jack posted in the Slack that he thought that might be talking about the 2024 signing bonus, whatever it was that when they restructured it this year.
So maybe
I don't know. That's interesting.
So maybe like this year's, okay, you've played 2 games. We're going to pay you for 2 games, but we're going to reclaim what we restructured. I don't know. I feel like that's the cost of doing business that way, though. When you restructure somebody's contract, that would be really strange for me. But, more on this later. I guess we can kind of let this guy let me finish the question I was going with, and then we'll kind of guide this to Deshaun real quickly. But as far as offensive game plan, what do you guys expect to see in your first 15? It's got to be different than last week somewhat, right? So what are you looking for here? To whoever wants to go first.
Go ahead, Jacob.
I'm going to say exactly what I said last week. Because that's what I would expect. I would like to see some screen game, some quick passes. I'd like to see Dante Foreman in some short yardage situations. They've got to have easy answers of some sort. Rather that if it's 3rd and 3, they've got to get that. If they come into a 3rd and 3, 3rd and 2, short yardage 3rd down situation, they've got to get it out the gate. Because I think part of what happened last week was I don't think they ever really built any momentum or confidence in what they were doing. And a lot of times, at least what we've seen in the past with Kevin Stefanski, is they establish that early. They usually go out there and have a great scripted drive. And I know their first drive had points. I know they got the stop and got the field goal. But then it just fell apart. And it's just do some of the things that you can do well. Kevin Stefanski can scheme up screen games like no one else. He's up there when it comes to the screen usage, tight ends, wide receiver, whatever. I think he's really good at that. Those are easy answers. Slow down Josh Hines-Allen and Trayvon Walker and Eric Armstead. Like I told Casey this, I said, the first play of the game last week, I would have thrown a screen right behind Micah Parsons. I would have thrown it right at him. Have him come screaming off the edge and throw it back there and make him think, oh, well, they're just going to hit some of these, delayed releases and things like that. And get Jerry Jeudy the ball in space. Get Amari the ball in space. Like, find some easy solutions, even if it only results in like 10 points in the first half. Find some easy solutions and don't set your defense up for failure.
Yeah, they just did. I mean, the screen game was non-existent last week, except for a couple tight end looks. But Casey, what do you think we'll see offensive game plan changes, first 15, that type of stuff?
Well, Jim, Jacob hit on everything. I mean, you run draws. You're going to have to run things just to keep the pass rush at bay. But it's about putting yourself in advantageous situations and getting first downs. This is a team that had 7 possessions in the first half last week and 5 3-and-outs. You can't do that to your defense. That's just overexposure. So even if he said 10 points, dude, I'd be happy if it was 6 and it's just 2 field goals, but eat up that clock. The defense was on the field for 19 minutes and 56 seconds of that, of the first half last week. That's unacceptable. You have to have some sort of continuity, and you can't even build an identity if you're not on the field. So just extend, give me a few drives, keep it a field possession game, use your punter as a weapon. I'm completely fine with that. But you need to see some continuity, man. We need to see what is the plan, because the plan was constantly obvious passing downs and then just off the field. You're off the field, and your defense is always out there. And at some point, that becomes too deflating for your defense, and they're unable to keep that energy up. And obviously the weakness of this Jacksonville team is the secondary, and it's the corners specifically.
Yeah.
Can you even get to where you can exploit that? Like for build to that. Like, I need to see that early in the game. I don't know, bad field. It could be a bit of a muck at first, but you have to get into your offense enough that it can start to grow and develop. And it didn't even get out of the infancy last week.
World's fastest fat man, always with, great stuff here. I want attitude today. Me too, man. Like, where was the attitude from last year? Where was the identity? And we talked about this a lot in the off season. Like, a lot of people I think, misunderstand how the NFL works this way on a year-to-year basis, that like, once you create a culture or an attitude or an identity for a team, that it just carries over. And that's not how it works. It has to be recreated every season. Each season is its own entity. So like, that has to, there has to be things to galvanize around. There has to be things to moments that bring you together, and all these things that have to happen that create your identity, or that special kind of identity they had last year as a defense, especially.
Mm-hmm.
So, I want attitude today too. I want to see the attitude that we saw last year. Like, they came out week 1 with that moxie last year. You've got to see that today, or else they have an offense that can be very effective with their quarterback, and they can pick you apart if you're not careful. All right, let's talk about Deshaun. If you're going into this game, I mean, I don't want to get too. We can take this all the way to the max real quick, but like, how important is this? Like, for me, this is as critical as it gets for him. Like, he has to do something today, or we are venturing into, because of what's happening off the field and on the field. If it is anywhere near last week, we are venturing into an area where we may be coming close to the end. That's kind of the feeling I just have around the situation. We talked at length about this the other night, Casey, with Quincy. So how critical is his performance today? And can he be focused with everything going on?
Well, that's the unknown factor. We don't know. We don't know what's between his ears, and it can't just be just in between the lines. It had to be all week focused and leading up, in the game plan, and being just living this, and it's with all that noise. Can you do that? I don't know if you can. But like what we're praying for today was the last weekend was his rock bottom as a player. That is the absolute worst you could possibly play, and of course it has to be better. But there's also part of me kind of feeling like, what if that wasn't rock bottom? What if he can be worse? What if he can throw 2 pick six? We've seen him throw pick sixes before, you know what I mean? And that's something he didn't do last week and still played that bad. So just, it's about gaining positivity, and I'm not trying to be negative because he has to play better. If this team can't win with what he did last week, it's not an option, and in relevance to the defense, because there was something in Ask the Insiders earlier today wondering about, like, because Pete said it, energy vampire and the team, like how that's affected the team, and they're not playing with the same passion and fire that we have used to being seeing. Is that all on Deshaun Watson? Well, I look at last year, and that team was fired up and playing with that kind of energy for PJ Walker. And I'm sure they weren't thinking PJ Walker is going to lead a game-winning drive and he's going to be the reason. They were able to bring that juice with minus the quarterback. That has to be what happens here. If he comes along for the ride, great, but you can't wait on him. That you got to bring your energy. You got to do that yourself, manufacture that, and keep that energy up, because this defense is going to be what pulls up by the bootstraps and gets this thing across the finish line, especially early in the season. And if he can come alive during that, that's great. But putting all your eggs on him to be the answer right now seems bleak.
That's exactly right. Yeah, you have to create that energy without him regardless. There needs to be other leaders that are going to take this team where they need to go without him. And if he just wants to be a function of the team, then that's fine. But until Jacob, what do you think? Is it in the range of possibilities that he gets pulled today?
I don't think there's a 0% chance he gets pulled today. I think it's a non-zero.
Chance.
So I think it's possible. It would have to be really, really bad, especially because they did that interesting. They had this little soundbite about how he just wanted to play all the reps at the end of the game last week, and that's why he wasn't out there, or that's why they didn't pull him. I just think you just can't be a detriment to your team. Like, I mean, they won with a dude that completed less than 50% of his passes. You just got to stop setting the other team up to score. You don't always have to throw a beautiful touchdown, but throwing a almost touchdown to the other team, it could happen. It could happen, but I only think they pull him if they're getting the snot kicked out of him and it's already gone. So that
won't really mean anything, right? And they'll probably say all the right things afterwards, like we were protecting him or whatever. Yeah,
we were down 3 scores in the fourth quarter, and like his arm was sore, so we pulled him, that kind of thing. I think he'll be better. I really do, because I think we didn't talk enough about the fact that he lost his dad and a friend 2 days before the game. Like, I think I had forgot about some of that stuff because it just wasn't making it out there into the media world enough. But I think he'll be better, and he doesn't even have to be good. He just needs to stop hurting the team. And I think he got the reps that he needed last week to not be totally rusty. I know I said it. But yeah, I mean, how much worse can it get? I shouldn't have said that. But,
I don't think it can get much worse unless it's turnovers. But the problem is, the processing just feels like it's gone, or there's no confidence to let the ball go, and that just inhibits your offense completely. So it has to be a better version of that. Like, he has to be willing to just let it rip when there's a guy open, and trust what he sees. And right now he's not trusting what he sees or his arm. And at times he's wildly inaccurate. So we will be watching that situation closely. Now, Browns got to win this game either way. So let's talk about the defense. There's a big onus on them today. Trevor Lawrence, watched some of last week's game. He looked pretty good at times. He made one hell of a throw to Brian Thomas Jr. and maybe one of the better throws of the weekend. What do you guys think of this offense? And will the Browns defense have answers for it today?
I love their skill position players, but their offensive line is going to be the Achilles heel to this team. Other than their right tackle, I'm not super impressed with what they have. And this is a matchup with Cam Robinson and Myles Garrett, where this is a prime opportunity for Myles Garrett to get 2 or 3. I mean, obviously he's going to get pressures, but I'm talking about really impact the game and be that game wrecker. Interior, they're soft. Now the Browns are going through their own problems at defensive tackle, thin up there,
Yeah.
and Jacksonville's going to run. They're going to run between the tackles. You're going to see Tank Bigsby today, especially in a bad weather game. I can't see them not leaning on that young man. So it's about, can you stop the run up front and put them in obvious situations? The exact opposite of what we're looking for here. They can attack you vertically. The ability to put Brian Thomas and Gabe Davis as vertical threats on the field when they have a slot guy like Christian Kirk. This is why Evan Ingram not being in there is a huge deal, because they were able to spread teams out and make you make decisions. So yeah, man, his defense has got to lead the charge and it has to start up front, and that's where Jacksonville's weak to me.
Okay. Up front.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, it does feel like a game you lean on this defense. You lean on that pass rush. You lean on the playmakers that you have up front, and you trust those defensive backs to operate in sometimes on an island, because I think if you bring pressure early and you get to Trevor Lawrence and you rattle him, it can throw him off for the rest of the game. I think you have that game wrecking ability against this offensive line. So don't get over aggressive, because sometimes that'll bite you right in the butt as well. But I just think you've got a chance. Set the tone early with your pass rush, and I think the defense can be borderline dominant today if they do that early.
I seen Charlie Chuck mention the jet sweeps. If they do that, man, I don't know if you guys remember Parker Washington. Parker Washington last year caught a touchdown against us. He also fumbled last week, but he's a guy that they will give the ball to in that situation. He's like a running back with the ball in his hands.
Yeah. I mean, if you're the opponent of the Browns at this point, you've got to have a couple in your game plan every week. I mean, it's a free 10 yards. And now, if you're the Browns, how do you adjust to that? Because it goes against everything that, Schwartz wants. This is where this, the change up, the curveball, all he's talking about, like the drive that stood out to me last week, and I've talked about this a lot this week, is the second one, right? And it was started with a jet sweep to Lamb, and then it was bootleg right, bootleg left, screen right. They used their pressure against them all the way down the field. Now the Browns adjusted, and it didn't happen again the rest of the game, really. But you can't have that. Like if the team has gone back and watched the Indy tape from last year and the Texans tape from last year and last week, and the Jags have a good game plan to use your pressure against you, be quicker to get out of that or go to that change up that's going to neutralize them. I think they probably learned some things last week. I'm actually really confident in this defense today. I think they're going to have a good day. To your guys' point up front, I think they have an advantage. I think that, I would be surprised if they have as good a plan as Dallas had for Miles, right? And so we'll see how that plays out. But I totally agree with what you said, Jacob, about the quarterback. If you're going to you cannot let Lawrence get comfortable. If he gets comfortable, you're in trouble. You have to have him off his spot, making off balance throws. Do it. You just have to move him off his spot somehow, some way.
Yeah, that's what we saw last year. I mean, you think about this matchup back in December. I mean, it was a ton of pressure, and you made him make business decisions, and he threw 3 picks, and there was another fumble, 4 turnovers total. And now he was banged up a little last year. His ankle was heavily taped up, but he was still more mobile than you want him to be. And that's something I think you need to keep in mind with Trevor Lawrence is he's not a guy who's going to take it to the house on you, but he will move the chains with his mobility. he's a sneaky athlete. Let's go ahead and use the
He
term.
is. He is.
But I think just corralling him, making him make decisions, throw it to the teeth of your defense, because he will give his receivers shots, man. They will take shots down the field. You just got to make him pay for those when he does them, and not be able to step up in those throws and come up with turnovers.
Yeah, 100%. Jacob?
I think interior pressure will be interesting. You lose Mo Hurst in this situation. You talk about his mobility and his ability to step up in the pocket. Just don't give him exit lanes. Like, we've seen this happen to where, one thing that I thought Dallas did so good against the Browns last week was Watson had nowhere to escape a lot of that game. And that was all that whole wall in front of him. He needed to bail to the right, he wasn't able to step up. Now, I don't know. He wasn't mitigating the pressure very well and that sort of thing. But there were some plays where he went to step up to try to escape, and there was just nowhere to go. You got to make sure you can still push the pocket vertically from the interior, just so you don't give him easy escape lanes to run and get that first down, or to throw it to one of these guys. There's a lot of speed at that wide receiver position. There are some guys that will get vertical, like you said, Casey, and he will take those shots. Don't allow easy shot plays, prevent easy layups, easy first downs by giving him escape rushing lanes.
Yeah, definitely. He will scramble. He will get first downs. And like you guys said, he's healthier than last year. Did I read somewhere he's lost his last 6 starts? Is that right?
That's a legitimate thing. Their last win was the week before they played us last year.
Oh, that's true. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy. Last week they Tank Bigsby had 12 for 73. ETN had 12 for 44 and a touchdown. They split their carries right down the middle. So that's you expect a similar distribution today, or do you kind of made it sound like you thought Bigsby might be more the guy today, Case?
But not in the passing game. And with Evan Ingram out, I think ETN is going to handle some duties in the passing game. He's an excellent passing back. But he did, look, they were scoring the game-winning touchdown to put it away, and he fumbled going into the end zone last week. That's going to, stick in Josh and Doug Peterson's mind. And Bigsby just looked fresher running the football. But he's also a second-year player. Sometimes you don't trust those guys. Sometimes you don't want them on the field that much in pass protection situations. And so I think it'll be a more even split. I just think if they have to have it, it'll be Bigsby.
I like Bigsby a lot, man. That was one of my Browns targets last draft season. He's the kind of back that concerns me when you're the Browns because of those interior players. And I feel great with Dalvin and Shelby Harris out there, but some of those pass rush only guys out there, like, I'm not sure. Like, if you run at Quentin Jefferson with Tank Bigsby, I have some concerns.
Is Dalvin still on a pitch count too? Because we saw that last week and we didn't know what to expect in his first game back. Is that increased this week? I think there's a need with his field condition that it could be a mutter of a game, and you want your man up front.
Yeah, and I mean, if it doesn't increase, that's Bigsby up the middle, and you just got to wonder how the linebackers will kind of react to that if those guys are getting blown off the ball in the middle. So that's probably my biggest worry when it comes to the run game is right up the gut with Tank Bigsby. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys, it's that time. Let's get some predictions. Let's go around the room here. Why you throwing your head back, Case? What's wrong? You don't want a prediction?
I've been going back and forth on this, man. So we'll see what I land when it comes around to me. I'm going to let Jacob take the bullet first.
All right,
okay.
Jacob, you're first, man. What's your prediction for today's game? Lay it on me, brother.
Sloppy football. Give me the Browns 17-16. I just think they hang around. They play enough defense to get a few scores, and then they get enough to put themselves in field goal position with 3-hop to win the game. Sloppy, put it on the ground. Put Lawrence on the ground on the other side. 17-16 Browns.
All right. A win, right? We'll take it. All right. 17-16. Case, dog.
Price is Right rules. I'm going to go 16 to
$1.
16 to 13. I think the Browns defense gets a safety today, and I think that ends up being the difference.
Okay. Okay.
Oh,
Okay. Safety. I like that. I'll hold you to that. I think you can probably find some good odds on that.
I bet you
real
could. Yeah,
quick if
I'm
you
gonna.
Not in
want.
the state of South Carolina, you can't.
Oh,
Oh, man,
well,
fair enough.
maybe I'll go find them for you. Just because I'm a degenerate like that. All right, here we go. I am going. Strangely feel good about this game. I don't know why, but I strangely do. I probably shouldn't even be saying this out loud, but I am. I've got 23-10. I think it'll be a 17-10 game late. They'll get a stop and put one in the end zone to put it away. 23-10. Browns in a bounce back win. So there you have it to go 1-1. So yes, that is my prediction. Call me insane, but I've had a weird feeling about this game all week. So any
Hey,
final thoughts, gentlemen?
the Browns under Kevin Stefanski respond very, very well to a loss.
There it is. There it
So-
is. Anything, Case?
Deonta Foreman gets in the end zone today, and we won't have that to complain about going forward.
All right, well, let's do it then. Let's pull up FanDuel.
Yeah, absolutely. There you go. What can you probably win like $1 million with a safety Deontay Foreman parlay right there?
Probably, yeah.
All
I don't
right.
think I'm going that far.
Yeah. All right, guys. Listen, we will be back after the game. Do we know? Are we going 7? Do we know?
I don't.
I have no
All
idea.
right, keep it locked. We'll let you know if we're going right after the game or at 7 tonight. The OBR streaming network. Make sure you hit like and subscribe on your way in or out. We appreciate you tuning in. Go Browns, baby. Got to get this one. Let's get to 1-1. We'll talk about it afterwards. Keep it locked on the network. Jump into those threads as we'll be live tweeting, live talking in the forums all game long. So for Jacob Roach and Casey Kinnaman, my name is Brad Ward. Let's get one. We're out.
Go Browns.